Don't worry, this is supposed to happen. Anyone know what that sound is? Well, it's just us. You can shout it out. Drone, nice one. All right, it's a drone, but it's not a military drone, don't worry. It's a small civilian drone, the kind you can buy at Best Buy. If you haven't seen one of these, just check this out. You're going to want to familiarize yourself with this. The reason is there's about 1 million of these in circulation right now around the world, and we expect people to buy another 1 million in the next year. And you know what? They're actually really cool. Let's just get that out of the way, because I'm not going to talk about how cool they are the rest of our time together. So I'm just going to say it right now. They're very cool. You can get great aerial footage. You can help find missing people. You can deliver medicine to remote locations. But what about the small percentage of drones that go where they are not wanted? Already we've heard about them going to prisons, delivering contraband, getting a little too close to airplanes, airports. We've heard about one accidentally crashing into empty stands during a US Open tennis match. And we've also heard about drones getting uncomfortably close to firefighting operations in California this summer, grounding aerial firefighting activities. So there's been a lot of speculation in response to these headlines about the world, what the world might be like once these drones become truly commonplace, right? It might be like this for some people some of the time. We don't know. So at The Atlantic, we decided to be more interesting, to focus on what we do know. And so we spent a few months hanging out with a strange and random assortment of people who already are dealing with unwanted drones in their everyday lives. Now, these are people who normally do not hang out together. Everybody from prison wardens to celebrity wedding planners who have to deal with the occasional paparazzi drone, to NFL security who have to deal with drones at stadiums. Because, you know, guys who like football love aerial footage of football, it turns out. But they're illegal at stadiums during game times. All of these people have had to improvise creatively, come up with solutions because the technology has outpaced the rules and regulations and even our cultural understanding of what to do with these devices. So what I want to talk to you a little bit about is what we can learn from these pioneers who are dealing with drones already. And really what I want to do is give you some news you can use. You know, what to do the next time an uninvited drone comes into your airspace, okay? So first you want to start with what not to do. You don't want to shoot it down. I know this is tempting. I understand it. And a bunch of people have tried it. Many more will. You heard it here. But it's illegal in almost every case. And it's inelegant, right? Because you might miss. If you hit it, if it falls, it might fall on someone. All kinds of messiness, right? You can't jam the signal either, which is a major bummer, because that would be awesome, right? Unfortunately, that's illegal too for almost everyone except for a few Secret Service agents at certain times, like on Tuesdays in alternate weeks. So you can't do that, even though you want to. And the reason is because it tends to jam everybody else's cell phone. We can't call 911, et cetera. We can't tweet. We can't do anything if they're jamming the signal. So you can't do that. So what can you do? Well, you can install one of these cool gadgets on your rooftop. This is called a drone shield. It's a DC startup company, and this is after they've just installed it on top of a Homeland Security building in a location I'm not allowed to name. But they've installed it on the roof here. And what this does, very, very cool thing, it notices if there is a sound of a drone approaching. That sound that we heard earlier, it's very unique, it turns out. And it's very hard to build a high-functioning drone without that sound. So they have a library of signature drone sounds that this device compares the sound to and determines if it's air conditioning or traffic or drone. And if it's a drone, it will alert you or send off a warning or, hit a siren. Something can happen to let you know. Okay, great. Then what, though, right? What do you do then? Can't shoot it down, can't jam it. Well, probably the most adorable solution that I have seen is the net gun. Net guns are normally used to capture wild animals. But in this case, it works really well potentially with the drone. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, can you see the drone there? Yes. It's coming. Awesome, right? It's very satisfying. Yeah, I applaud, yeah. I should say, though, that was the third attempt. You know, we'd missed the first two attempts, and you can tell that drone was not exactly playing hard to get, right? Like, that was not a tough one. So this has its own problems. The nice thing about it is it takes the drone down without destroying it, so you're not then liable for the cost of the drone. But what else can you do? If, let's say, you're Brian Sterling. Brian Sterling is the head of corrections for the state of South Carolina. He gets a call last year, just after Easter, that a drone has attempted to deliver cell phones, tobacco, and marijuana to Lee Correctional Institution in Bishopville, South Carolina. And his first response to this, his first thought was that it was a military drone. And he was like, wait, a predator delivered cell phones to Lee prison? And no, that's not it. It was a small drone like this. And it wouldn't be the last attempt in a South Carolina prison. So he knew he had to do something. Contraband is a huge challenge, obviously, for prisons. So he looked at all the different options, and there were lots of fantastical solutions that companies called him about that don't yet exist, but might one day. And he even thought seriously about using this company that drapes your facility in a net, essentially, so that you can't throw or fly contraband in very easily. But that has its own problems. You got to maintain the netting, et cetera, et cetera. So he decided to go with a more creative and in some ways common sense approach. So he built a couple watchtowers at Lee, like you can see in this picture, so that his officers could see incoming traffic more easily. And they installed some thermal imaging cameras so that they could see drone users in the woods surrounding the prison. But what I also love is that they relied on human psychology. So you can see this in this picture here. There are signs like this all around Lee prison because they have beehives all around the prison, and it's partly for inmates who are interested in beekeeping, but also has this lovely dual-use benefit, right? Because people don't like bees. People don't like them. So the idea is, if you have bees all around the prison, maybe people won't come and fly their drone in to deliver cell phones to their friend who's in the prison. They also have signs warning you of the snakes, which are natural to the South Carolina brush. So I love the creativity of this. It's sort of a mix of old-fashioned and newfangled strategies, which I think we can predict is where we'll end up in this sort of multi-layered solution space. We know eventually, though, that we're going to want higher tech solutions, right? We have heard all kinds of speculation, again, about hunter drones being invented that could come and, if you have a drone you don't want to be there, then you fly your counter drone up and it nets the other drone. And I mean, there are actually people spending a ton of money on this. And I don't know if it's going to work. I think it has its challenges. We did meet a celebrity wedding planner who this summer was at a wedding she had planned in the Hamptons. And she came up with a sort of primitive use of this hunter drone idea. So during the ceremony, a drone came in flying low over the water with a camera. And she started panicking, thinking, it was paparazzi. So she did something very instinctive, which is she grabbed her videographer and she said, "Send up your drone." And he looked at her and he said, "What do you want me to do?" And she said, "You need to fight that other drone." And he was like, "It's an expensive piece of equipment." And he didn't want to send up his drone to fight the other drone. Understandably. So instead, they did something very clever. They sent up his drone and positioned it so that it blocked the shot of the other drone, the rogue drone, so that it was no longer a great shot. There's actually a long history, you may or may not know, of celebrity wedding planners using devices to block the shot for helicopter paparazzi. Umbrellas, balloons, all this kind of thing can come in very handy. Drones, of course, are much more agile and stealthy, so it's more difficult to block the shot. But this is one potential solution From now on, she places a lookout at every high-profile wedding, scanning the skies with binoculars for drones, and then they have a counter drone on standby, right? So that's her solution. Over time, what we're going to see more and more of is something called geofencing, which is when the drone is programmed so that it'll use GPS signaling to not fly into certain high-risk places, like over airports, in DC, as you can see in this map. This is taken from DJI's website. DJI is probably the most successful drone company so far. It's a private company out of China that has grown dramatically after it introduced the DJI Phantom drone. Anyway, they have it pre-programmed so that it's not supposed to fly into certain high-risk areas. And this is a whole other fascinating subject. How do you decide where the no-fly areas are? And do we really want, random guys in China trying to figure that out? Right now, that's where we're at. So you can see on this map that DC, the whole area is a no-fly zone. You cannot fly a drone legally in DC. Depending on how you read the language, you cannot fly a paper airplane legally in DC. But just so you know, and then Institute would like to be on this map and is not on this map. So most of what you're seeing are airports. And then if we pull back a little, you can see more of the country, and you see there were not stop signs, there were not lanes, none of that, right? So it was just sort of this free-for-all, and there were lots of accidents, lots of When you used to take a drone out 5 years ago, if you're one of the early drone geeks, you take it out to a park and fly it around, people would come and admire it and ask you all about it, and they'd think it was super cool. Now, if you do that, there's a good chance people will start, calling the cops. There's a lot more concern among members of the public about what this means. Some of it's valid, some of it's not. But it is really interesting to watch in real time how the psychology of our reaction to drones changes. Because ultimately, while drones themselves are interesting, they may deliver our packages one day, they may not. What's more interesting to me is how we as humans manage these devices that we have wrought. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great rest of your day today.